Alright, so, back with Verdun Weapons Reviews, or Verdun Weapons Review, whatever you want to call it. Today we're going to do probably the best pistol ever made. The M1911. It might not be the best pistol ever made, it does have problems. Every gun has problems. No matter what gun you can think of, it has problems. But the 1911 has been around for how long? 1911. Actually longer than that. It really started with the Colt M1900, which started development in the late 1800s. You know, if you go look at a Colt M1900, it looks like a very unshapely 1911. But, you know, the M1911's been serving how long? In the military since 1911. It's designed by John Moses Browning, our Lord and Savior. But, yeah, M1911 uses a tilting bolt, or tilting barrel locking system. And I felt that this was the next gun after the Ruby that I should review. Mainly because the Ruby, again, it's technically another John Browning design. And, you know, 1911 in-game is very close to the Ruby. But back to the history of the 1911. Designed by John Moses Browning. It's in 45 ACP, a very, very good cartridge. Very powerful. It's 45, and, you know, M1911. Now, the M1911 in game is not technically the same 1911 you're used to. Most of the 1911s that you see in World War II movies, you know, all around are 1911 A1s or 1911 A1 copies. You know, some sort of derivative. Now, the difference between an M1911 and M1911 A1 is very subtle. The difference is, well, there's some slant cuts, and there's also there's some slant cuts by the trigger. If you go look at 1911 A1, if you just search M1911 M1911 A1 differences, and you look at a picture, you can tell that the hammer has been changed a bit. There's been a mainspring housing has been arched for the back of the grip. It has a little arch on the back. The trigger for the 1911 A1 is shorter. The World War I 1911 has a much longer trigger, which is kind of a spongy trigger. And then the cuts at the front of the slide are a little bit different. There's not that much difference, but there is a difference in the gun. So yeah. Any other history about it? Well, it's been used freaking forever. By a whole bunch of people. It's used by Argentina, Bangladesh, Brazil, Bolivia, Canada, People's Republic of China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Fiji, Greece, Guatemala, Haiti, Indonesia, Iran, Japan, Liberia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malaysia, Mexico, Nazi Germany used captured pistols, Nicaragua, Norway, Philippines, Poland, Spain, South Korea, South Vietnam, when South Vietnam was still a thing, the Soviet Union, the Republic of China, or Taiwan, Thailand, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, Zimbabwe. And that's not even going into how many derivatives there is of the 1911. You know, without your 1911, you wouldn't have the Glock. Yeah, you wouldn't have your Glock. You wouldn't have your SIGs. You wouldn't have, you know, your... How many other pistols you wouldn't have? How many pistols wouldn't you have? Yeah, what I mean you wouldn't have your Glock is the Glock uses the tilting barrel locking system from the M1911. So really, yeah. If you think about that, you know, where the 1911's gone, it's still... Things from the 1911 are still being used today. Now, the 1911 does have problems. Obviously, a very low capacity of 7 rounds. That's pretty low in game. I mean, that's one more than a revolver. Yeah, so... And that's in real life, too. 7 rounds, or 7 plus 1 if you put one in a chamber. Sure, you can get longer mags, or they do make double stack magazines today. They're double stack 1911 1911s today. And another one of the problems with the 1911, the sights. The sights are god awful, especially if you're watching the footage in the background. They are terrible sights because back then you really didn't use the sights. You're like, what? What do you mean you didn't use the sights? Well, kind of the training of the day, and this goes back into the 1800s too. You used to do something called point shooting. Point shooting was kind of instinctive shooting. Like you didn't aim with the sights, you aimed with. It's hard to explain what point shooting is without like just looking up a definition. I mean, point shooting. Here, let me see if I can bring it up. Come on, Google, bring it up. It's weird. Point shooting. Point shooting, also known as target, threat focus shooting, instinctive aiming, instinctive firing, instinctive shooting, is a method of shooting a firearm quickly and accurately and does not rely on the use of sights in close quarters. Life-threatening situations where there is the greatest chance of being killed. Point shooting makes it difficult to apply proper marksmanship techniques, which is why point shooting advocates less sighting-based shooting. You're basically just instinctive shooting. You're using your kind of like reaction. Kind of what they do in movies a lot of the times. That was a common thing of the day. That's why it's why a lot of people in World War One, you always see them shooting one-handed. You know, a lot of people didn't use two hands on really any gun. I mean, on any pistol. I mean, I can go on and on about 1911's history and the Jews, but I mean that's a full like hour, maybe more. But yeah, it's like every country used it. It's been chambered in who knows how many rounds, how many replicas there are, how many, just how many copies. I mean, Browning even improved on some people say improved. He was more working on something else, the Browning high power. Hold on one second. British even used the Webley and 4.55 Webley. I said no. The British used the M1911 and 4.55 Webley. I think I just said the Webley and 4. Yeah. Yeah. So how is it in game? It is, I would say, a slightly worse Ruby. Even though it's a great pistol in real life, and there's things wrong with it, but not a lot of things wrong with it. In game, because games don't really simulate how a gun works, except for maybe Escape from Tarkov. But since you don't really explain how a gun works, it's just kind of point and click the button. It's a slightly worse Ruby. It fires about the same speed as the Ruby, but you have 2 less rounds because the Ruby holds 9 rounds, and this one in the M1911 holds 7. So you have 2 less rounds. You have about the same time to kill. So yeah, slightly worse Ruby. I mean, it's better than a lot of the pistols in game. It still has a fast fire rate. It's still very useful. If you're looking in the background, I did fairly well with it, and the only reason most of my deaths in the background had to been from artillery and machine guns. Like if you're fast, if you know how to point shoot, which you can use point shooting in video games too. Basically just move your mouse with your eyes, or if you're playing a console game with a controller, move the joystick with your eyes, and then you can point shoot a lot easier. That's what I tend to do in games. But yeah, in game the M1911's obviously used by America. I think Canada also has a class with it. Canada's weird. But yeah, it's slightly worse Ruby, basically. It's fairly fast relay. I think the reload's actually faster than the Ruby, though. So even though you have 2 less rounds, it is slightly faster. I guess you're wondering why I'm doing so many American guns. Because I did the 1917 Enfield, and now I'm doing the 1911. It's just like I tend to do what's easiest to get footage of at the time. I guess I could technically get footage of any weapon in the attrition game mode, but man, it's not that easy because there's no way he plays attrition on the U.S. server. Maybe on other servers, I don't know. But yeah, just I mean, it's a great pistol in game, and it's very useful. It's as a sidearm, you take your 1917 Enfield or 1903, and then you get a 1911 sidearm, or I think some of the LMG classes get the 1911 as a sidearm, and it's basically the only pistol you get as the Americans. Though technically, we should also be getting the M9 the what revolver is it? There's a revolver in. Isn't it like the Colt? Yeah, the M1917 revolver is a 45 ACP revolver that we should technically also get. But for some reason they didn't add it. But yet they added the 30-06 shot. I don't know. But back to 1911. Yeah, it's very good. There's a lot, but there are some problems with Verdun. Same problems I have when I mentioned in the Ruby pistol review is Verdun has a fire rate set. It has a limited fire rate with semi-automatics. Even though you can fire these pistols somewhat fast, there should be no rate of fire on them. You should be able to, as fast as you can click the button, that's how fast they should shoot, honestly. I mean, if you want to limit that, it should be, if you want to balance that, to give them more recoil. I mean, the M1911 in game has like no recoil for some reason, despite being a 45 ACP, which has recoil. It's not like you don't, especially when you're running around like you do in Verdun. It's like they gave the MP18 and the BAR tons of recoil, which neither should have any recoil, but yet they have the most recoil in game. Have you tried using the MP18? It recoils like you're firing a automatic 12 or automatic 10 gauge. Same with the bar. It's like the bar should have no recoil or barely any. It's 20 pounds. With the it's 20 pounds, and the heavier the gun, the less recoil you have. Yeah, another problem is hit detection it's kind of bad in Verdun. I mean, it's not terrible, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, but I happen to get a really good map. This is a really good map for the 1911. This close-up this close-up map, which really where you want to be using your pistols. Not saying you can't use them at medium range if you want to try some skill shots, but yeah, just use it in close range. Just spam it. Don't try to get those precision shots. Just shoot a whole clip into someone, or yeah. Shoot all your bullets into one person. There's no downside. You carry tons of ammo in game, and yeah, second best semi-automatic pistol in game. I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna say the Ruby is the best. Then comes the 1911. Then comes the FN 1900. Then the Luger. Actually, no. I'm gonna say the Webley Scott's the second best pistol in game. I put the 1911 third, and then the Luger, and then the Mauser broom handle. Yeah, we'll go into all of these pistols hopefully. Okay, just because Battlefield 1's coming out does not mean I'm going to stop these Verdun weapons reviews. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop Verdun's gameplay, because I like Verdun, and Verdun and Battlefield are going to be two very different games. Verdun's a lot more hardcore and such, but, it might take a little bit of a hit. Because Verdun, I'm kind of off and on Verdun, because it does still have a lot of problems, like hit detection is one thing, getting stuck on the map, not getting stuck in barbed wire, but getting stuck on geometry is one thing that just annoys me. Like, how much of the geometry in Verdun isn't even like geometry? It's like box. It's like you could tell where the they were using the terraforming tool, and it like created a 90-degree angle on some of the trenches. You can definitely see that. Not on this map, but on some of the other ones. Alright, so I'm going to end it here, and you can watch the final remaining minutes of gameplay. So, yeah. Bye. Hope you enjoyed it. There'll be more Verdun weapon reviews in the future.
Coming right at us! Giving this up without a fight.
cordon up!